Senator King, I just want to start by asking you about the State Department Inspector General requesting this briefing tomorrow on Capitol Hill. The Senate Intelligence Committee is among those expected to be briefed. I'm sure you can't say much. I'm not sure how much you actually know or anybody knows at this point. I'm just wondering, what is your initial reaction?
Well, inspectors general are very important people in the United States government. Their job is to be a watchdog. Their job is to be independent of politics, of the people who are running the agency. And so the fact that the inspector general at the State Department, as well as you know, this all started with the inspector general at the intelligence agency, has something to say to the committee, that's important. I don't know what it is. I haven't been briefed on it, but it certainly is something that sounds significant, particularly because he stated that it's urgent, that he wants to do this meeting right away.
And just, again, a lot we don't know, and as you said, you haven't been briefed on it. Is the Inspector General at the State Department free to, this came shortly after the Secretary of State had a lot of pushback, said they're not going to, be intimidated, things like that. Is the Inspector General free to contradict what the Secretary of State has said publicly about not cooperating?
Well, I don't know specifically about the Inspector General law at the State Department, but generally, Inspectors General have wide latitude, particularly in reporting things to Congress. That's their job. And so I would say it's likely that this Inspector General has every right to go to Congress. That's how the statute was designed across the government. And by the way, Anderson, it's really interesting. The first whistleblower statute was in 1778 in the Continental Congress, where they set up a whistleblower statute that said anyone who knows of malfeasance in the government has a duty to report it. And we've got continuity for 240 years on that principle that's certainly coming into important play right now.
The context of it is also incredibly important. People are pointing out that, well, there's not a direct quid pro quo hanging over the head of the Ukrainian president, the new Ukrainian president, the young Ukrainian president, doesn't have a career as a politician or as a leader, is this fight with Russia that is going on, and the hundreds of millions of dollars in U.S. aid that will aid that fight. And that is the context with which the president is asking for a favor.
And the president unilaterally cut off that aid without any consultation with anybody that I've ever heard of. Apparently, State Department was against it, Defense Department was against it. He did it. It was his order through the Office of Management and Budget about a week or two before this phone call. And he starts the conversation. The first sentence is, we've done a lot for you. And then later on, of course, is the famous exchange where Zelensky says, we're ready, Mr. President, to buy these Javelin missiles for our defense. And the president said, yes, but first, I have a favor, though. And that's pretty powerful evidence. The other thing, Anderson, I had a hunch about this so-called transcript, so I had two staff members of my office the other day read it aloud, and we timed it. They read at a normal speaking pace. It took 10 minutes and 40 seconds. The phone call was 30 minutes.
Wow, that's
now,
interesting.
We don't know what's missing. It may be that there was a translator involved, and that made it go much longer. But the president of Ukraine speaks English. If there was no translator, that raises a question of what's in the other 20 minutes of that discussion. So that's the point, I think, and that's why I've been very conservative on impeachment. I haven't been pushing for it, but that's why I think there has to be an inquiry to get to the facts surrounding this, what looks like at least an attempted transaction.
And you're right, the transcript is it's from the recollection of people, I believe, in the Situation Room and some other potential audio that may be out there, I think. Would there be a recording of the phone call from intelligence agencies? Is there more out there, you think, details of the call?
I don't know, but my understanding is that the practice would have been to simultaneously not record the conversation, but we see people with this mask and they talk into it and say all the words, and it makes literally a transcript. I would be surprised if that doesn't exist. And I think that's obviously one of the pieces that we have to find out more about. The other thing, Anderson, that's really bothering me about this is this tossing around of the word treason. Treason is the only crime specifically defined in the Constitution. Article 3, Section 3 defines treason essentially as siding with an enemy of the country in a war. And to throw it around in this situation, the problem is the president feels that he's the state, you know, like Louis XIV, I am the state. So criticism of him is treason against the United States. That's not true. That's just not the way it works. And whistleblowers are people that come forward. And by the way, the whistleblower doesn't decide the case. He or she has brought forth a set of facts, which are now in the hands of Congress, and they have the opportunity to investigate it to find out whether the whistleblower is right or wrong. But the whistleblower did a public service, which is exactly what people are supposed to do. If they see what they believe is an abuse of power in the federal government, they're supposed to report it. That's what this whistleblower did, and now we're going to have a chance to get to the bottom of what those allegations were.
Are you confident that Congress can protect this whistleblower's identity?
I certainly hope so, because, you know, the president is using words like interview, but last week he was using words like spy and implying execution. That's a threat. And, you know, those were the words he was using last week. If this goes, if articles of impeachment come from the House, I'm a juror. So although you've heard me express some real frustration about what's going on, I'm going to rest my final decision, if it comes to that, on what the facts are and what's actually presented to the Senate in a trial, which would be presided over by the Chief Justice.
Senator Angus King, I appreciate your time. Thank you.